And then we're going to go to 2 Timothy 2 and 5, and then 1 Samuel 15, 19 through 22. Just going to use this as a backdrop, as a canvas in order to paint a picture tonight. Let's read together 1 Corinthians 9, 24 through 27. Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the game goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. Therefore, I do not run like someone running aimlessly. I do not fight like a boxer beating the air. No, I strike a blow to my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified for the prize. 2 Timothy 2 and 5. Similarly, anyone who competes as an athlete does not receive the victor's crown except by competing according to the rules. And then 1 Samuel 15, 19 through 22. Why did you not obey the Lord? Why did you pounce on the plunder and do evil in the eyes of the Lord? But I did obey the Lord, Saul said. I went on the mission the Lord assigned me. I completely destroyed the Amalekites and brought back Agag, their king. The soldiers took sheep and cattle from the plunder, the best of what was devoted to God, in order to sacrifice them to the Lord your God at Gilgal. But Samuel replied, does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. Our topic tonight is out of bounds. Out of bounds. So our theme this month is level up your margins. Level up your margins. And I want to make sure everybody understands and commit this to memory. We have that slide? Yes. Oh, there we go. Okay. A margin is a space between your life and your limit. That's what we've been talking about. This is your life. This is your limit. You should be living back here and not all in the margins of doing stuff until you're living right on the edge of your limits. So we know God wants us to have a space between our life and our limits. So everybody say a margin is the space between your life and your limit. You're not supposed to live your life always on the edge. So tell somebody, get off the edge. Off the edge. Because that edge is a ledge.
That's good.
That edge is a ledge. There's a drop. There's a different, right, where this is surface. If I say that's the edge, this edge is I'm not supposed to cross it, but it's not a ledge. But the edge that you're on, you're walking in your limits, you got to realize that edge is a ledge. If you fall off of that, you fall off. If you fall off because you living too close to it, you're going to get hurt if you don't get killed. And this is real. If it's an emotional edge, y'all know mental illnesses sometimes fatal. If it's a financial ledge and you drop off, you may lose your family, you may lose your marriage, you may lose your car, you might lose your apartment. If it's a physical edge, and you fall off that edge. Now you got a heart attack. Now your blood pressure went up and you got a stroke, or you end up doing something dumb and you get drunk and you hit somebody. Sometimes, y'all, that edge is a ledge, and you're going to get hurt if you don't get killed. So we have to level up our margins. Somebody say, get off the edge. It's a ledge, dummy. So margins, then, another word for margins can be boundaries. Margins are boundaries. In other words, God said, this is kind of where I want you to live. Don't get too close to the edge. This is your boundary. This is as far as I want you to go. Margins are boundaries. Now, for anything in this earth to function properly and to fulfill its purpose and potential, it has to have some boundaries. Everything in this earth, if it's going to function properly, and if it's going to fulfill its purpose and its potential, then it has to have some boundaries. I know we like that song, no limits, no boundaries. That refers to God alone. You got limits and boundaries. And it refers to anything that he designed to be that way. And I really try to think, all of my intellectuals here, maybe you can help me out. I tried to think of something that God designed to be without boundaries. All I could think of was the sky. Seemed like to me, everything else that God created has limits and boundaries. The sun can only be so hot without messing up its purpose. The sun can only get so close to the earth without messing up its purpose. The ocean is not limitless. If the ocean had no boundaries, we'd all be swimming. The ocean can only go so far. God gave it a boundary. Even our physical bodies, your stomach has a boundary. Get it a little bit too full and you're going to feel it. Anybody hate that feeling of when you have stretched your stomach to its boundaries? Your heart has a boundary. It can only go so fast and it can only go so slow. Your heart has a boundary. Your blood has a boundary. It is just not floating all over your body. It has boundaries of where it's supposed to go. If your blood gets beyond the boundary, your blood gets beyond the boundaries in your veins, in your brain rather, it kills all the brain cells when it's outside of its boundaries. Even your blood has boundaries. And you think about nature. The trees have boundaries. They don't just keep growing until they reach the moon. They have boundaries. No matter how long those trees are up, they only grow so far. The roots only go down so far. They have boundaries. There's no tree in California whose roots are in well, I should say, let's say right on the border. There you go. Whose roots are in New York. It has boundaries. Even the animals have boundaries. Sometimes when we those crickets or whatever those things were, I thought they were grasshoppers, but whatever those things were, it was so many of them everywhere, but they had boundaries. After a while, those numbers begin to diminish. They had boundaries. They felt like they were everywhere, but they weren't. Everything that God created, if it's going to function properly and fulfill its purpose, it has to have limits and boundaries. Even everything man created has limits and boundaries. Even though it's yours, you can't just do anything you want to with it and expect it to function properly and fulfill its purpose. That's my car. I can drive my car any place I want to. I can drive my car into this building. It's my car. So I'm going to drive it into this building. It is not going to fulfill its purpose or function properly if I keep running into this building. And maybe never again. I decide I'm going to drive to New York on one tank of gas. My car got some limits. It got some boundaries. There's nothing that I can even think of that man has created that does not have boundaries. And anything that has no limits and no boundaries, we call it wild. Untamed, yeah. It's just wild. It's dangerous when you're out in the wild with things that don't believe they have limits or boundaries. It's wild. We call that wild. And the only good thing about wild is how it feels. Wild is fun for a while. Well, they call it wilding out. I'm going to get wild this weekend. What other women think about wild women do. We like, oh, 3 people know that, so thank you, Dana. We like being wild for a while. We don't like limits and boundaries. The only good thing about wild is how it feels. Wild is fun for a while, but only to the flesh. by competing according to the rules. So if you've ever seen in Olympics, you see that wreath. Sometimes they have on their head, but we do medals now, but then they did the wreath. They had this wreath on their head, and that was the victor's crown. He said, you don't get the crown unless you competed within the boundaries.
Yes, yes.
Unless you did according to the rules. For example, in the long jump, you got a margin.
Right.
You can only jump from here to however you can go. You can't decide that you want to jump from here. You in the margins. You in the margins, boo. There's a line, and it might not be. It's not the end. Sometimes so the line is here, and it has a little more space there, but you can't jump in that space. You have to stay within that margin. And if you jump, you can jump longer than everybody else, but you messed up your boundaries. You had a margin, and you fool around, put your foot in the margin. You got too close to the edge. In running, you can only win certain races if you stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane.
There's some. What is a lane? A lane is a margin. If you get too close to the edge and step on that margin, you're disqualified. You're a ducky mouse. You're disqualified. Even if you win the race, you're disqualified because I gave you a margin, and you were supposed to stay within your margin. And so, as you stay within your margins, is the issue with King Saul. Saul had a problem with his margins. He had a problem with his boundaries. So the scripture I read you, what had happened before that was he was sent with his army down to the Amalekites. Now, in those days, the wages of sin was death. And at any time, God could say, you all messed up, you hurt people, you did stuff against me. At this point, they had done some stuff to the Israel. When Israel was coming out of Egypt, the Amalekites attacked them, and it took advantage of their vulnerability. And so God said, all right, it's time for me to whoop them for what they did. And God, well, God would God do that? Because God is God. And life and death belong to him. Only him. Nobody else. Only him. But he told them, I want y'all to go down there, kill everybody. And everything. Kill everybody and everything. Saul goes down there, and he spares the king. I don't know, I don't know why he did that. It might be like, I hope somebody spare me if I was down there and my team lost. But for whatever reason, he spares the king, and he takes all the best animals. So, for us, it's like, we go down, we kill the ugly animals. They didn't have no problem with that. But these nice, juicy lambs, that make a nice little lamb chop at the end of the day. These goats and the milk, and they had these beautiful, and then so they were going to, they saved all the best animals, and they said they were going to sacrifice them to God, right? God, this is for our sacrifice. So the prophet Samuel came down there because God had already told him, all right, Samuel, I told Saul what to do. He did not follow instructions. I want you to go down there and him him up, because he didn't do what I told him to do. So he goes down there and say, Saul, you didn't do what God told you to do. Saul said, yes, I did. Yes, I did. And Samuel said, then how come I hear sheep? I told you God said kill everything. I'm down here. I don't hear the silence of the lambs. I actually preached that text once with that topic. I don't hear the silence of the lambs. When I come down here, I shouldn't hear nothing. Lord, you sitting in my face telling me you killed everything, but I hear. Exactly. them sheep and goats and going on. So God has been talking to us all year about making some changes. All year long. Taking some changes. And to be spiritually excellent. What else? Physically fit. What else? Financially set. What else? Mentally sound. What else? Emotionally stable. What else? Relationally fruitful. What else? Socially connected. Have you asked God for the plan for each of those? Who's asked God for the plan for each area? Give me that sound again. How many of you have changed anything? Have you changed anything? How many of you have changed everything you were supposed to change? Partial obedience is disobedience. Partial obedience is disobedience. Okay. If you tell your kids, parents, I want this house clean when I get back. I want this whole house clean when I get back. You clean the room you sleep in, the bathroom you go to, and the kitchen you eat in, and everybody else on their own. Were you obedient? If you clean this whole house, I'm going to give you $50 for cleaning the whole house. You clean the room and a half, do you get the $50? No. Why? Because partial obedience is disobedience. So Saul comes down there. Are we off? Are we off screen? Okay. So Saul comes down there. So Samuel comes down there to talk to Saul, and Samuel says to Saul, why did you not obey the Lord? Why did you pounce on the plunder and do evil in the eyes of the Lord? I did the same thing. Tanya, I said, pounce on the plunder. I love the Bible. Why did you pounce on the plunder? Saul, you pounced on the plunder. What is plunder? What is plunder? Plunder is what has been taken by force. So in Bible times, plundering was actually legitimate. Plundering was a legitimate and the expected confiscation of personal property, and then you enslave the defeated. When the fight ended, the victors would go gather up an inventory. What did we get? It's called the plunder. It's what we plundered. Well, when God has counted something as off limits, when he says no to something and you go get it anyway, when he says no to something or get rid of something and you keep it when he said kill it, you have pounced on the plunder. If you are involved sexually and you're not married, you have pounced on the plunder. It's something that God took from you because it wasn't good for you. He said you can do this once you get married and you are in a committed lifetime relationship. That's the only way that sexuality will fulfill its purpose and function properly. It's not going to be proper or fulfill its purpose if you pounce on the plunder. If you take your money and you have no margins and you're spending your tithing And you're spending your savings. God has given you some margins. It's all through the Bible how you're supposed to handle your money. But here you are. You haven't tithed. You haven't given. You haven't saved. But you and all your buddies roll up at the church with those $6 caramel frappuccinos. Everybody got. You pounced on the plunder. That food that you're not supposed to be eating. You know, you're diabetical. You know, you're unhealthy. You know that God has given you a way that you're supposed to be treating your body, but instead you pile your plate with forbidden food. You are pouncing on the plunder. That relationship that you're not supposed to be in, that relationship, because you're holy and you're sanctified and you're dedicated unto God, but just something in you likes to hug a thug. In the hug a thug club. Or she is not a holy, wonderful, beautiful woman of God. So you decide to be a member of the Navajo tribe. You have pounced on the plunder. Partial obedience is disobedience. And here comes Saul. But I did obey the Lord. I went on the mission the Lord assigned me. And look at this stupid sentence. I completely destroyed the Amalekites and brought back Agag, their king.
All in the same.
You completely destroyed all the Amalekites and brought back Agag, their king. If he's the king of the Amalekites, is he not an Amalekite? So how could you completely destroy the Amalekite and then say, and I brought their king back? And then he said, and it was the soldiers. So later on we find out Saul said he was afraid of them. But you know some leaders that throw all their people under the bus. Saul became a bus driver. He said it was the soldiers. Samuel was them soldiers. They took the sheep and the cattle from the plunder. But it was the best of it. You know how we're supposed to do? We're supposed to give the best of the stuff to God. It was devoted to God. Well, God told you what to do with his stuff. How you going to devote something to me and then do with it what you want to do? God, I give you my all, and then you do what you want to do with what you just gave God. That was fresh. It's not on here. How can you give yourself to God and then do what you want to do with what you say you gave to God? So he said, the best of it was devoted to God. God already told me to kill it. But I just decided I'm going to kill it, but I'm going to sacrifice it to the Lord. You could have sacrificed it while you was killing it. But we're going to kill it because we got to do a sacrifice. We have to go to church and then put it all in. That's it. It's all lying. But what if he wasn't? In order to sacrifice them to the Lord, it's interesting. He didn't say the Lord our God. He said the Lord your God to Samuel. But that's not my point. But that's just interesting. He says in order to sacrifice them to the Lord your God at Gilgal. Anyway, in general, that's such a good reason. Ain't that a good reason to sacrifice and worship? I did it so that I could worship. Some of the things God says no to will seem like they're good things. Some of the things, y'all, that God will tell you no to will seem like a good thing. So how can he be mad about that? That's a good thing. How he gonna be mad? Because I wanted to worship with the stuff he told me to kill. How can God be mad. I don't tie to the church, but I give to the charities. I give this to the homeless, and I give to the uh, uh, to the Boys and Girls Club. I give to people. How could God be mad at that? I went where God told me not to go, but I had to go so I could get my friend. My friend was down there, and they called me, and I know God told me not to go down there, but I went down there. I had to go pick up my friend. How can he be mad about that? I did steal the paper from my job, but it was for the church. They called me, and they said that the children's ministry needed to make some copies, and there was no paper there, and I didn't have time to go to the store, so I just took a couple of reams of paper. How can God be mad at that? I threw that one in there because that's what I got convicted for. Because a sister would run off all my church stuff at my job. I got convicted, and God made me replace that paper. So, it sounds good, but it's out of bounds. So let's do what Paul does. Let's take a look at sports. Let's do basketball for this one. It's the end of the fourth quarter. We're down by 2, and we're bouncing around, and the shot clock, the clock is getting down to the last few seconds, and that play didn't work, and so I went to my player, my guy. He goes to the net, but somebody like Mutombo or somebody is there. You're not gonna get through that, and so what I do is I see my other guy. They see me, and I'm in the 3-point range, and the game's almost over. I got just enough to get that shot off. I get the shot off before the buzzer. So it's before the buzzer, and it's all swish. The buzzer late, the swish before the buzzer, that sounds good. The swish before the buzzer, it sounds good. Swish before the buzzer, it sounds good. But my foot is on the line. It sounds good, but it's out of bounds. You're saying all the right things. Sounds good, but you're saying them to the wrong person. You're out of bounds. That college program, they're giving me a full ride. No loans at the end of this. Great school to go to, but it's not God's plan for your life. It sounds good, but it's out of bounds. It looks good. But it's out of bounds. What Saul said he was going to do, it looked good. The animals looked good, and the reason looked good. It sounded good, and it looked good. It looks good, but it's out of bounds. Let's go to baseball for this one. Oh my. The bottom of the ninth. Y'all, the bases are loaded. You're down by 3. Whoever wins this one gets to go to the World Series. You're up. Comes in, it's a strike, and you got this one. That's your ball. You hit it, and it looks good. It's going. It's over third base. And it's long enough. And it's far enough. It looks good. And then it just makes a slight turn. It looks good, but it's out of bounds. That job, man, that job. The money is incredible. It's going to solve all my issues. It's going to help the family. It looks good, but it's not a godly profession. It's something that a Christian really shouldn't be doing. It looks good, but it's out of balance. Sometimes, I'm sure Saul felt pretty good about himself. Sometimes it feels good, but it's out of bounds. Let's go to football. Last play of the game. You finally get clear. You're in the back of the end zone. The ball goes up. You grab it with one hand. But you know you got that grip on it. It feels good. You pull that thing in and it feels good. And the crowd goes wild. It feels good. You come down and you get that one foot in, but you fall back at that second goes on the back of the end zone. It felt good. It felt good grabbing it. It felt good pulling it in. It felt good going down. It felt good hearing the crowd, but it was out of bounds. So it's something that you've been waiting for. Everything in you say this is it. Everything in you says he is it. Everything in you says she is it. And she feels good. And he feels so good. Feels like our bodies were made for each other. Feels good. Y'all know the song, if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be. Or there's another song that says, it can't be wrong when it feels so right. Feels good, but it's out of bounds. What Saul did sounded good. It looked good. It felt good, but it was out of bounds. He was all up in the margins. He was all over his boundaries. He had gone beyond his limits. Said, but Samuel replied, does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? In other words, he said, what you were talking about would have been a good thing, but you think God likes what you did more than he would like you just being obedient? God, but I did it for the church, but that's not what I told you to do. God, I did it for my family. That's not what I told you to do. You think I would rather you do these things, it was for my friend. I had to go get my friend, but that's not what I told you to do. He's saying to obey is better than any sacrifice. He said to heed is better than, I'd rather have your obedience than have these sacrifices. I'd rather you to done what I told you to do than for me to smell the aroma of the fat of rams. I know I like that sometimes, but you know what I like better? I like obedience better. And then it goes a little deeper after that. Y'all can read it at your leisure. It says what you did is just like witchcraft. Rebellion is just like witchcraft. So I need you all to level up your margins. What is a margin? A margin is a boundary. And in order for you to function properly and fulfill your purpose, you're going to have to stay in bounds. Now, this is frustrating some of you because you've crossed boundaries so much. You tried and you tried, you fought, and I've been fighting, but I had to admit to myself, I'm not fighting a good fight. I ain't fighting a good fight. You fought, but you're not fighting a good fight. You just keep messing up. And so a word like this is convicting. But conviction without conversion is condemnation without redemption. It's just, you just miserable when you have conviction without conversion. I feel bad about it, but I haven't changed. So now I'm just condemned. And now I'm condemned and there's no redemption and I don't have a way out. But every true champion has been out of bounds at one time or another. Every last one of them. Every last one of them. All of them have broken rules. All of them have fouled. Yeah, all of them, LeBron. Right. Who LeBron and Stephen and all of them have fouled. All of them have stepped out of bounds. They've hit, all the baseball players that are champions, they've hit foul balls. Every basketball player has missed some shots. Every football player has either thrown a bad pass, dropped a pass, missed a tackle, stepped out of bounds. Some of them maybe every game. But they don't quit the game. I don't want you to be so discouraged because you have not kept your boundaries all year that you say, yeah, Pastor, you're right. I've been out of bounds. Don't leave the game. Just stay in bounds. Just get back in bounds. And then get on with the next play. They don't quit. They're like, man, I stepped out of bounds. I missed that shot. I'm going to go sit on the bench. Champions don't do that. They just get back in bounds and get on to the next play. You can be mad because you lost. If it's on all those three situations, they lost the game. You can get mad because you lost, but then they just get ready for the next game. But when was the last game of the season? They just get ready for the next season. They don't quit the game. Why would you quit the game? Just get back in bounds. Just practice. Just be more careful. Listen to the coach, but don't leave the game. If you didn't stay in your margins this month, never stop starting over. Just say, I know I'm talking to three sets of people. First, I'm talking to some people who are going to hear this word tonight and quit. Like, that stuff too hard. I'm done. I'm tired of trying. And then the second group are those who are going to hear this word tonight, and you're going to work on those margins. You're going to get better and better until you're functioning properly and you're fulfilling your purpose. And then there's one more group. That group are those who feel like what they're doing is working for them. I don't tithe, and I'm doing well financially. I eat anything I want to, and I'm healthy. I don't pray every day, and I don't go on those fasts with the church every month. And me and God, we just fine. I got a little while. I live a little while when I want to, but I'm happy. I'm good. If I want it, I just do it. It don't bother me. I'm successful, just like I am. But just like the out of bounds jump shot, the out of the end zone catch, the home run that went foul, it looks good, sounds good, it feels good, but it doesn't count. It don't count. It don't count. Yeah, you might think you're being successful. You think you're doing all right, but guess what? It don't count. It will not win the game of eternal life for you. Even though it looks good, feels good, sounds good. It don't count. Whatever you decide you want to do because it feels good, looks good, and sounds good, if it's outside of the will of God, it don't count. Let me prove it to you. Matthew chapter 7, verse 21, 23. He said, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many are going to say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name drive out demons? And in your name perform many miracles? Looked good, sounded good, felt good. He said, I'm going to tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoer. You shot the shot. You hit the home run. Caught the ball. But it was out of bounds. Here's another scripture. 1 Corinthians 3:12. If anyone builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, their work will be shown for what it is. Because the day will bring it to light. The day, capitalized day, the end times will bring it to light. Judgment day will bring it to light. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each person's work. So gold, when gold is in the fire, it gets what? It gets better. When silver is in the fire, it gets what? If costly stones are in the fire. But if wood, hay, or straw gets in the fire, it's consumed. It will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test the quality of each person's work. If what has been built survives, the builder will receive a reward. If it's burned up, the builder will suffer loss. But in this case, you can still be saved. But if you're going to be just somebody that just barely made it in, say, even though only as one escaping through the flames, in other words, there are some people who are not going to do everything God tells them to do, and they're not going to go to hell because they are believers. And there are some people who aren't in their heart really believers, but they're doing even more than these other people. But are you going to take a chance? Which one are you going to be? You're not even going to know until you get there. So there will be some people who don't finish everything. It's called grace. Somewhere they're like, God, I'm sorry, I didn't finish everything that you told me to do. And you're going to leave this world, as the old people said, with your work undone. And some of them, because their heart might have been right. In this case, it was about their works. In the first case, it was about their heart. Either way, you did some stuff, but it wasn't the right stuff. And God said, you didn't do it for me. You did it for you. You did it for you. Even the good stuff you did it for you. Saul, you did that for you. You didn't do that for me. Your excuse sounded good, but you didn't do that for me. You did that for you. And that's what you're going to be judged on. We grew up with a song called Only What You Do for Christ Will Last. To obey you all is better than sacrifice. Remember that your margins are boundaries. You got to get off the edge, because that edge is a ledge. Stay in bounds. Stay in bounds. You know how easy it really is? If I'm out of bounds, staying in bounds is as easy as moving my foot. It's as easy, dummy. Just move your foot. Just move over. Is it that complicated? Is it that hard? Just move your foot. Just one step. How about tonight you just take one step? It might not get you all the way where you need to be, but can you just move your foot? Can you just take one step? It may sound good, look good, and feel good, but you are only what you do for Christ will last. I didn't give them a song, Crystal and Tanya, y'all help me. Let me. If I mess it up, y'all jump in and make it sound better. But it's something like, you may build a cathedral, large or small, You may build a skyscraper, grand and tall. You may conquer all the failures of your past, but only what you do for Christ will last.